if I want to like watch YouTube and do stuff like that as a normal Troy human being kind of thing, like I can do that with my normal account, which is my normal Google account. And then if I want to do like troyhunt.com stuff, I do that differently. If I want to like watch YouTube and do stuff like that. Now I'm talking back to myself.
let you love the sound of your own voice so much.
Let me just mute that right now. And then oh geez, it's my first day. 5 years later, I still can't get this right.
Maybe we should know how to do this by now.
Now I should be live at the moment. But see, we'll find
it warns me. I got like a big pop-up.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, saying like, you know, warning, this this is being streamed live on the interwebs.
No, it's not made for kids. So where's Burton? Why isn't Burton there? Burton's always someone else came in first. Wow.
He's lost.
Neil Caldwell.
He's lost his touch. What can we say?
He's lost. I'm going to ask for my stickers back now. Okay, I'm going to copy the link. Why is that? I always find it's just like a little bit behind as well in terms of telling us. Oh no, there we go. Concurrent view. Oh yeah, that's working now. Oh, now there's people. All right, good. We made it work. And I don't want to figure out how to use. I did one with Lars recently using StreamYard. And it was really like, it actually looked professional because he had like intro music and things. And then he had it both together on the same frame. Cause you know, the way it is with you and I is with it's like Zoom, just broadcast view. Yeah, just flips. So no one can see you right now because I'm talking. And then you talk.
Hi.
And now everyone knows you.
Yeah, the YouTube's live behind it, isn't it? It's
probably.
I'm looking at the live stream. It's still you just waffling on.
Is it? Sounds about right. Let me, before we descend into the anarchy of the next hour-ish, I got to do a sponsor first. So I got a brand new sponsor this week, actually, Boxcryptor, cloud security, free end-to-end encryption with files. Check out seamless encryption solution made in Germany! ! And I like that. I like the fact that people are very proud. Germans, Australians. I don't think you're really that proud in England when you do England things.
Have you seen my tweet about our Prime Minister yesterday?
No, really? Hang on a second. Back to the sponsor. let's not go too far off track to see. Accept all cookies. Yep. Boxcryptor is a brand new sponsor today. You can create a free account. So, actually, one of the things, and just for everyone's reference, this is extremely unscripted. I have enough bullet points to count with my hand over here. But sponsors were one of the key reasons why I started doing these videos, because this is the 5-year anniversary, so probably should do some reflective stuff. But being able to give some sponsors some airtime that I know that they're going to get every week, so that they can help me do what I do. And I know you, mate, you have the same sort of thing where sponsors are very important because we don't have real jobs, so we do rely on that a little bit. So it does help when you click on the Boxcryptor link and you go and you install it and give it a go and just buy as much of it as possible and tell them I sent you. That would be really good. Thank you. All right. Now, so for folks joining, again, like we don't have much for script. I have a few bullet points just because when Scott and I have tended to do these, when we've made them a little bit, is edgy the right word, mate? A bit edgy?
I think so. It's a byproduct of the unscriptedness, I think.
Especially calling out the stupid, it does seem to resonate. We can both see the comments and the engagement's good. And it's nice to see people like Stefan there. So thank you, Stefan. I owe you an email, Stefan. I know it's on my list. I'm working on it. As I've said publicly before, Stefan is making a massive difference to helping us get the passwords from the FBI to give them to everybody else. And that is getting much, much, much closer now. Very, very close. And I can say that publicly because everything's open source. You can go and view the repo, which is kind of cool. So that's good. If you are joining it and you have questions for Scott or myself, just drop them into the chat because we're keeping an eye on things. Scott can see you there. If you're too much of a pain in the backside, either Scott or I will remove you because Scott has the power as well. Oh, Charlotte was like, should she join in, like remotely, well, from downstairs, remotely to remove
the banhammer from the shadows.
So actually you asked before, and this is absolutely unscripted. You asked why she wasn't here and what was it? So I tweeted.
I don't know.
I tweeted before saying earlier today that Charlotte might make a guest appearance as well. That was before we both went to the skin clinic. so this was, so I have a couple of like little, I don't know, are they moles or, you know, things which are kind of like, they're really, really minor. Anyway, we went on a skin clinic a few months ago and they go, oh, we just got lasers. Like, we'll just laser that and it will disappear. And they lasered it.
That's a great start to a story. They have lasers.
They lasered it a little bit a couple of months ago, and maybe it was a really small change. So today they're like, oh, we'll just laser it a little bit more. And I mean, now that I've pointed out, of course, everyone won't be able to start looking at the freaking mole on my eyebrow here and a couple here on my nose while you're looking at it. And that was cool. And then Charlotte had some acne from childhood, you know, on the sides of her face, where most of us tend to have acne. And they lasered her real good. It's like, you and I have been to Way Down South, right? Remember Way Down South? What do they do there?
Yep. Yeah,
barbecue, right? So anyway. So maybe just you and I will have a chat to her. Like, she's fine, but it's like, that's just part of the process. And
like ultra sunburn or something.
The price of beauty. So there we go. Oh.
Wait, you paid, and that's the price of beauty?
Oh yeah, we paid. Yeah, it's a long-term investment. It hasn't paid off yet.
Oh, okay.
Today's exercise. All right. Anyway, so moving on. This is 5 years of videos. I don't have kind of a lot to say about that, other than somehow miraculously I've managed to do one every single week for 5 years. So where does that put us? Like, well over 260 something videos. And you've been on a bunch of them, mate. A bunch of them have been in different parts of the world. Some of them, at least one of them, has been on an airplane. And as everyone knows, and you know better than just about everyone, like, regardless of how messed up things were, every single week they've been done. And, you know, eventually I won't be able to do them all the time. I don't know how long it'll be. Maybe it'll be another maybe 50 years. Who knows? If I keep getting lasered, mate, I might last a lot longer. So, but it has been a really good one.
Lasers aren't that good, dude. Come on.
Well, in 50 years from now, they might be. We don't know. You know, Moore's law, they're going to get that much better and that much more effective. And then there'll be like AI lasers running on the blockchain. And
dark blockchain, the upgraded version.
So it has been a good way of forcing me to keep a pattern. I've got a lot of stuff I want to write later on, particularly on the soft skills side of things, because every time I write something there, it seems to have abnormally high degrees of engagement and traction. But I do think that having something like routine like this, particularly for people like you and I, where we don't have normal jobs, and I think at the moment for people that probably don't have routine in terms of, you know, you're not necessarily going to the office every day, that having something like this, which was just always a feature, has been good. Now, that said, I did have things on my list. We were going to talk about them and I was going to give you a heads up, and then we didn't.
I always like it when you announce things that we're doing and don't tell me anything.
That was when I went to get beer. And then I kind of forgot about the rest of it.
It's like, hey, we have a planning meeting, but I need to get beer, so let's skip the planning. We'll just go live.
But I do pick fun things. And the first thing I had on here that I thought I'd love to hear you retell the story, because you and I spoke a lot about this privately, and then there was stuff public. And then, you know, you're going to just have to find where the sweet spot is now. Tell us about the patent troll.
Oh, I was wondering which thing you were going to pick. Yes, oh boy,
there's so many options.
I mean, I think so. I'm going to link the blog post into the YouTube channel just for people that don't have the background on this. But a couple of people came forward to me with a letter that they'd received in the UK from a UK company, basically insinuating that they were infringing on a patent because they were using content security policy on their website, or a particular feature in CSP, and that they had to now pay a license. And this person sent it to me. They're like, hey, we Googled CSP and it came up with you. Like, someone's going to sue us. And yeah, like the letters and everything are linked to my blog. And I couldn't believe it, that they were actually trying to lay claim to a feature of content security policy from some like super old patent, which is, really traditional patent trolling behavior. So, whoa, boy, did that explode. I don't think they were expecting the amount of traction this got. So I had to, went through the EFF, and got some legal advice and like, how do we respond to this? I'd never actually got one, which is a shame because then I would have just gone like full nuclear. But yeah, they backtracked and then apologized. And then I sent you the comments that I got, and I think I've tweeted them now publicly, so I can talk about them. But they were like, "Oh, we're really grateful for Mr. Helm pointing out the flaws in our case and where we need to improve." And I was like, "Wait a minute, that sounds like round two's coming." So,
just to be clear, like, what did you get the DMCA takedown for?
Oh, so then, yeah, so this was, I think, just like, what's the right word? Some kind of like vindictive kickback of this, where
I got a bunch of words, but I have to probably change the content rating this video.
So yeah, like I posted scans of the letters, right? It's like you're sending out these threat letters. I was like, I scanned them and put them online so that people can see, the letter for themselves. And then they went and started filing DMCA takedowns against like various of my accounts because the DMCA takedowns were because I was breaching their copyright because, it's like it's their letter and I'm not allowed to post it online. And then I got a GDPR complaint because the letter contained the guy's signature and the signature is his personal biometric data. And he wanted me to take that down. So I keep getting like all of these really stupid legal things like DMCAs and GDPR takedown requests. And it's like,
so
this is really good.
Just for fun, I just texted the tweet that has his signature in it. It's very important that nobody RTs this, because if you spread his personal biometric data, you might get it later. Don't RT the link I just shared.
Let's have a look. What is in it?
It's your tweet.
Oh yeah. Oh, so this is an even more fun one. Like the specific one you called out is like all companies in the UK, we have to file certain legal documents with the government every year about our company registration and all the details. And they all have his signature on and they're all public records. So I was like, okay, maybe don't sign things and post them publicly if you don't want your signature floating around on the interwebs.
So Stefan thinks that Patent Troll Dude and Nomics Dude should just basically get a room together.
Wow, I've not heard Nomics for a long time.
I know. Let's not delve into that. Just Google Scott's name and
there's a slippery slope.
As in no mail records. That's that'd be good. So Brendan had a question for Charlotte, who is predisposed at present. How are you handling running Windows on? I see. I copied and pasted. Doesn't look weird on DM. That no. Okay, I literally copied the text which said DM. Okay, how's Charlotte handling running Windows? I'm doing really well with it. Thank you. It's I'm much happier that Charlotte is now running Windows. In fairness, that the one valid point she makes, and this is not a Mac versus Windows thing, but she has a Norwegian keyboard on her Mac, which has the URE. Whatever, like the other keys that aren't on like a normal British or American keyboard. So she misses that a little bit, but she just basically rolls back to the Mac when she wants to speak to Norwegian people, or she uses one of her iOS devices, and there's obviously digital keyboards and you can kind of flick between them. But no, look, I think it's running pretty well. It's nice that we can, and again, it's not necessarily a Mac and PC thing, but she can sit down here and use my keyboard and my mouse, which is like these ergonomic jobs that are, feel really, really weird to anyone not used to them. And it feels normal to her, and I can go and use her stuff. And then we went away earlier on in the week because we were doing some wedding planning stuff, and I forgot the charger for my laptop, but she has a charger that's exactly the same because our laptop's the same. And it's just like, this just feels like harmony. Like this is love. Having the same, the same.
Wouldn't it be good if they were all just powered by like USB-C or something, right? Like,
I'm not sure it can actually push enough power out for some of these ThinkPads. I don't know. Someone's going to correct me and tell me that I'm wrong.
You should be able to like slow down the rate of discharge, because I used to have that on my MacBook. Like I could draw more power than the charger could deliver, so your battery would go down like 1% every 10 minutes or something. If you were doing too much stuff. But yeah, there is some value to this whole idea of universal chargers.
Totally. I can't wait until iPhones get rid of this bloody Lightning thing. We can just go to USB-C. It's not happening with the 13. I ordered my 13, actually. In fact, we ordered a couple of 13s.
Same, yeah. But when's your delivery?
Oh, it's like 4 to 5 weeks. It's quite a while, actually. So, but also we ordered Macs. Haven't had Maxes for a while, but we just thought, we're doing so much photography stuff because there's so many awesome places in Australia to take photos. You see, you got a different problem. So many awesome places in Australia to take photos of.
See, I've never gone for the Max. I find it like I go into the Apple store and it's just a bit too big for like normal use when I'm doing like one-handed use. I'm just a bit like, the Pro is, because I've got the 12 Pro now, it's just the right size. And when I held the 12 Pro Max, it was like, when you're kind of like stretching across the screen with your thumb and you can't quite get there.
Yeah. Well, I've got the case. The case arrived.
Oh, so mine did as well yesterday. So I've got all the accessories. I got like the clear one again, but it's got the big, I don't like the big ring on the back of it.
Yeah. No, when Charlotte saw that too, because she has had an 11 and that did not have the MagSafe, but 12 did. So I'm used to it, but I've had the leather case, my old one. I won't do it again, but I showed this in a video last week. And it's a little bit hard to see, but basically the entire back of my phone is smashed. Like it's just glass and shit everywhere. And every time I take the cover off, glass falls out. And it's been in the cover 100% of the time, including when it was dropped. But clearly, particularly with the leather case, I think if it lands like right on a corner. So
yeah.
But yeah, so that'll be 4 to 5 weeks or something. But we are using it for so much photography stuff. It seemed to make sense.
The cameras are just so good, aren't they?
It's insane. Stefan's asking about whether Charlotte's tried Windows 11 yet. I haven't tried Windows 11 yet, mate. I'm a busy guy, like I've got a lot of stuff to do, and I'm just in a bit of a phase where PCs and stuff are sort of utilitarian devices, and it just needs to work. So I'm literally going to wait and pull it till I can pull down a final public build release, the same thing everyone else gets, and just hope that everything still works after.
I need my computer to work too reliably to be a guinea pig for 11. Like I need to just turn it on and work. So I'll be waiting until all the kinks are ironed out, I think.
So Brennan's got a reasonable question here. He says, further question, how is Charlotte handling not being as deep in the Apple ecosystem anymore now that she's not in the Mac anymore? So I think what Apple does really well is sort of the integration stories. So she misses being able to have things like all of her photos automatically available on the Mac and being able to do like iMessage and FaceTime and things like that. So, it's a scale, right? Like that is a deficit without a doubt, at least for the sort of thing that we do day in and day out. And did we tell you, I don't know if we told everyone or told you, Scott, but she is literally the COO of Troy Hunt. This is now her title. She is COO. So Troy Hunt Proprietary Limited, which, I don't actually even own that. So please don't go and register that now. But yeah, we're a Windows shop over here at Troy Hunt. So that means, particularly for a C-suite executive,
all me and the missus are on Windows.
we need to have that. All right, just looking here at the comments. Anthony, USB-C can run 100 watt, and there are now versions that run 250 watt. I don't even know how many watts this.
Yeah, you could definitely get like all laptops on the USB-C now. Like it's
I would like that. The kids Lenovo's, they've both got Lenovo Yogas, are definitely USB-C, which is good. I'm not sure why this one isn't. We've got iPad Pros USB-C, which is great. Yeah. But like, think of it between these two things: Lightning, USB-C, then proprietary. Lenovo.
Yeah, that's I mean, is every work type like so in my house? On my desk, I have like a bundle of cables that come up, and then on the kitchen side, we have like a different bundle of cables, and we have to have micro USB in there for like battery banks and other GoPros and stuff, and drones, and then they've got the wireless charging pads. They're pretty cool, actually. We have wireless charging pads all over the house, and that's really convenient. But there's like 6 charging cables. Oh, sorry.
So someone's trying to sell me a boat today that has them. It's like, ooh. Yes, I should upgrade so that I can wirelessly charge my phone whilst I'm out wakeboarding. That'd be nice.
Could you not just buy like a pad and stick it in the Malibu? It is a Malibu, your current. Yeah. But this was a better Malibu. Oh, because it has wireless charging pads, right?
Among other things, yeah. Shiny Doc, I have a completely non-tech question. What waterproof sunscreen do you use that works for you? So actually, and I can't remember the brand, but I know exactly what it looks like. This is a very Australian thing. I actually use a kid's one. I use an SPF 50, which you're meant to use. It is a yellow bottle with a blue handle, and we must have 20 of them floating around the house. But I find it doesn't, like some sunscreens, for those of you from this part of the world, get really.
What does sunscreen do? What is it?
It's for people who are really, really bright when they
Hey,
go out in the sun. And
the
mind
sun.
you, for all of us, because, have you actually been here in summer, or you've always been here on the periphery?
No, yeah, I've never, yeah, because summer is like what, November, December, January for you?
December, January, Feb. Yeah, yeah. And then, give it like a month or so.
No, yeah, back end of summer then, because I think like
Yeah.
April's the earliest that I've been there.
And I think you burned anyway, but
Yeah,
it's the
lots to
yellow
avoid.
bottle, and it just doesn't get like greasy or gluggy, and it's a spray bottle, which is good, and it just rubs in super, super easy. So I find that one really, really good, but it definitely says like for children, and it works great. So, yeah, good question. Not one I saw coming. Stuart went to a max for the 12. I have tiny hands, but I won't go back. I don't have tiny hands. We'll just leave that there and move on. Brendan tempted to switch to iPhone purely because Google phone. You do get bought into the ecosystem. I think that's part of the problem. And I'm sure there are really good Google phones, Samsung phones, but you and I are pretty embedded now in that ecosystem, right? The Apple ecosystem.
It's just so convenient. And we now have like an Apple One subscription and the fitness app and the subscriptions and like Apple TVs in all the rooms. It's just so, it's like, it's a little bit of money, but for so much convenience and so much integration. Like it is a good value proposition for sure.
So let's move on. I had another thing on the list here, and I had deliberately not spoken about this until now. I don't think I've spoken about it now because it's just it's the sort of thing you want to discuss drinking a beer, talking to you. And what I like about when we live stream this, you and I will talk afterwards, and for the most part, it will be the same conversation with the same style. So for those of you wondering, there will be things that we don't necessarily want recorded, so we will turn this off and we'll go elsewhere. But it's basically the same discussion. How much of your security posture normally involves praying for good security?
I mean, all of it. Wait a minute, where's this going?
So this is going to the Epik data breach. So this is Epik, Epik. Did you see this one?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
okay.
Crikey. So I'm sure I'd heard the name before, but I didn't really know who Epik was. Now, for the most part, and I almost feel like the press has possibly been a bit disingenuous here, but let's not take away the comedy value from it. Epik, so epik.com. Solutions for digital empowerment, which apparently is important. Digital empowerment, so they're a domain registrar and they're a host. And the thing that they've become quite well known for is, we're not on American time zone now, are we? All right, so let's be direct. They're very known for their freedom of speech, which quite often in some areas of the US means that you can say whatever you want to say. So for many of the services which would have been booted off more mainstream tech platforms, they go here. So there is a lot of right-wing stuff, a lot of more Nazi orientated. I don't think there's just a kind of way of putting that, white supremacist kind of stuff. And when I say a lot, in fairness, I suspect that it is a small amount of their overall posture, but they are noteworthy for continuing to support this particular genre of service. So it turned out Anonymous wasn't real happy about this. We know it was Anonymous because they told us they're anonymous.
Anonymous little a or big A?
It's still going. It wasn't clear. It depends on the press you read. Somewhere here I actually have the text. Oh, it'll be in one of the articles here. Like the text file from Anonymous, the Anonymous, talking about it. But let's just keep trying to be serious about it. So Anonymous broken in. They've backed up. They've backed up 180 gigabytes worth of data.
We didn't lose our data. We just have unofficial backups.
And this 180 gigabytes of data was the vast bulk of it was MySQL backups, which of course was just all their datas. And within there, I found about 15 million email addresses, including multiple email addresses of my own, both my old Hotmail address and then an email address on troyhunt.com, which I use for managing domains, because that scraped a bunch of whois data, and they say the whois data. But this is not really the point. That the point is that their CEO is a guy called Rob Monster, like not making it up, like it's Mr. Monster.
Mr. Okay, this is good.
His Twitter account is at Rob Monster, I believe. And he posted multiple videos, and this sort of speaks to the, I guess, very kind of, what do they say, square state style behavior in the US. Multiple videos where he's like praying for the hackers. And, you know, I'll just share the tweets because,
yeah, I need to see this now.
It's super, super bizarre. Because one of these is he's like, the data is cursed. You need to get rid of the data. And he's like, oh, don't get rid of it. It's like, well, hang on. We need to know, is it cursed or not? Because if it's cursed, my response is obviously going to need to be different if it's not cursed.
Well, you can't put that in, have I been pwned, and presumably curse all the other data, right?
I do try to isolate my data for curse-related potential incidents.
See, good security, data segregation.
And I think it's important to take a zero trust approach to curses. You know, it's like one set could be cursed, let it not extend the curse to the other set. And then
we're going to get in so much trouble.
Why stop now? So that was one. I'm going to put another one here in the tweet. So the other one I'm going to put in here is the one that's in the tweet, in the discussion thread. The other one has the curses. That's more talking about the curses. Oh, no, here's this one. He's praying for better security. All right, there's the last one I put in there. And I just feel that in the realm of disclosure notices, incidentally, I mentioned the other day, I actually own the domain name, is my disclosure notice hot or not? And one day I want to do something really useful with that. But in the realm of like disclosure notices, I do feel that praying for better security and saying that the data is cursed and don't touch it is maybe not impactful. Maybe that's what I'm saying.
It's definitely a new strategy.
You dig the hole a bit deeper. Go.
No, wait, whoa, don't pull the pin on that grenade and throw it over here. I mean, praying is a valid strategy, and I pray all the time that I don't get hacked because I've missed something. But, I don't think it's number one on the list of defense in depth. That's for sure.
Now, related to that, there is, the other weird thing. He had like a prayer live stream related to the breach that people could join in. No, join in. Weave joined in. You know who Weave is?
The name rings a bell, but I don't know why.
Andrew Orenhart. Oh, okay. Geez. This is just going downhill really, really fast.
We've slipped on the slope now. Let's just do it.
All in. Okay, let me just find an image. Open new tab. On like a more serious note, like warning, it's not a nudity thing, but it is very offensive to many people. So with that warning, henceforth said, this is Weave. Now, this might take a little while to come from the live stream for some people, but you'll see that Weave has not always made the best life choices. And Weave rose to fame many, many years ago by being known as the internet's worst troll. Scott, I'll drop it into our back channel messenger just in case it takes a little bit longer to come through on the other one. But you'll see this.
Moly.
Right, there you go. So for people listening to this later on, he has a very large swastika on his right side of his chest with some imagery in it, which is probably much less important than the fact he has a giant freaking swastika on the right side of his chest. But he rose to fame by being known as the internet's biggest troll. This must have been like a decade ago. And then he was in the InfoSec news because he found a vulnerability in AT&T, which basically boiled down to insecure direct object reference. And I think the story went somewhere along the lines of he wanted to make sure it wasn't an accident, so he requested the URL like another 150,000 times.
Oh, that's why yes.
Oh, and from memory, it was like an iPhone registration endpoint or something to that effect. So anyway, as I say, he literally wears his colors on his chest in this case. So he joined into this live stream with Rob Monster, which does tend to skew the audience, towards one direction. which was, you would imagine Mr. Monster wasn't very happy about this. I can't believe I'm saying this. Wasn't very happy about
That's
this
such a good
either,
sentence, isn't it?
because it does sort of put fuel on the fire of mainstream press and tech companies basically saying you're a right-wing, white supremacist-loving hosting provider. Anywho, moving on. So one of the accounts on here, there is a Twitter account called Epik Fail Snippet, and I'll drop this into the chat as well. And because that chat's obviously timed with our audio, which is a little bit delayed, Scott, I'll drop that into our back channel there. But it's really interesting because what this account is doing is just like picking the data apart, joining the dots. And this is what I think on a more less controversial, more serious note is really, really interesting about data breaches. It's like once you have the internal mechanisms of an entire system open and you start to pull the threads and join the dots, it's like, what do you find? And if you have a look at the pinned tweet, he sort of goes through quote tweeting another tweet and effectively goes through and starts to figure out that a lot of the efforts that have gone towards anonymizing customers, once you had the underlying data structure, you could piece it all back together and figure out who was buying which domains and hosting which websites. So particularly for those who are trying to hide behind the veil of anonymity to run white supremacist services, this happens, and now all your data is out there, and now you know who's running what. All of this has made it hard for people to feel very sympathetic towards their cause. So this is really interesting. But the sort of last thing on this, and then I'll chuck over to you for some comments while I read some of the other questions here. That I think one of the problems has been because they scrape so much who is data, and then I put that in have I been pwned. After I ran a poll and asked whether I should, and 85% of people are like, yes, it should be in there because we want to know if our data's in there. There's this sort of implicit association, including for myself, because people scraped my Whois records, saved my email address alongside the domain that it was associated with, went into their database, and they got it breached. I never got a notice. Like they never emailed me and said, hey, we are a choose my words a bit more carefully. We are a site that favors free speech, and we have a lot of sites that would like to have free speech, and we saved your data, and now your data is alongside Weave's. Anyway, that was that.
I mean, that's going to hopefully be like a much lesser occurring thing, at least from the Whois perspective now, because I don't think is there anywhere now that just discloses all the Whois data? Wasn't that recently?
I don't think there is. And I only appeared across a couple of domains, somewhat strangely, domains belonging to my ex-wife that I registered many, many years ago. And like I have about 100 domains at the moment. I think it's almost 100 domains. And none of the really interesting stuff is in there. Yeah. What's that?
I've got like 20. I thought really? I was a domain. I see them and register them and then never do anything with them.
I have so many different variations of scotthelmsucks.com. True story. Look it up. Anyway, so I've got all these other domains. I mentioned before, like, is my disclosure notice hot or not? The problem is I get up and then like I'm in the shower or something like that, and then I just have this good idea and I register it and then nothing ever happens. The other day I registered crashmeifyoucan.com, and I was like, I wonder if I could build a website, put it on Cloudflare and just scale the bejesus out of it and then see if I can effectively get people to like DDoS the service. And I was like, I probably should speak to Matthew before I do that.
Yeah, I'm sure this will be fine. Sounds like a great idea. Just do it.
It'll probably be fine. So for the folks listening to the podcast later on as well, Ice Cross says, if Troy's book gets made into a movie, Scott's part should be played by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Time for
He's basically my twin brother. This is a pretty good point.
Ice Cross needs a new monitor. Absolutely.
Hey, I've got my new camera. Everyone can see just fine now.
Yeah, your focus still keeps coming in and out though.
Really?
Yeah. You watch this back later on. Like your little flashy light things behind. The things like what my kids have in their room. So that keeps going into focus and back out.
Wait, I can fix this. Hang on.
So while you're fixing that, I'm going to read the other comments here. So Burton says, over the last 5 years of your life and career, your life and career has changed considerably. You've been at Congress, visited CERN. Do you regret any part of them years?
Yeah, Troy.
When you read my book, incidentally, getting very, very close to being able to push the book out. We are absolutely going to hit the holiday season, the lucrative holiday season for the book. In all seriousness, I've made the comment several times that there are things in my life, particularly over the last few years, that have been like super, super hard and super, super rough, but that they are the things that have led us to where we are today, or led me in particular to where I am today. And for the most part, I look at my life today with a few notable exceptions, which will be transient. And it's like, yeah, like I absolutely love my life. And if a bunch of things hadn't happened that have been hard before, and let's say, for example, the Have I Been Pwned M&A sale thing, that was massively painful, massively expensive, just draining in all sorts of ways. If I hadn't done that, I don't think I'd be as comfortable as where I am today with where the service sits. So no, like I don't regret that. And I think every time I look back and go, if I didn't do that thing, what would be different? It's almost like that little sliding doors argument. I don't know if anyone's ever seen the movie Sliding Doors. I think it was a Gwyneth Paltrow movie. It's probably like 15, 20 years old, but it's like she's walking in the subway and the subway is there, and in one alternate reality, she gets on the subway, and in another alternate reality, the door closes and she doesn't. And then she meets someone and things happen completely differently. And it is hard to imagine, for the most part, wanting things in my life to be different today. So, it's a really interesting question, Burton, but I think the book is going to help explain that. Go to https://book.troyhunt.com. Next. James, how much of the 4-hour live stream prayer session with Rob did you watch? 4 hours, was it? Man, I've watched like 2 minutes and my head hurts. Crikey. Wow. Okay. Interesting. Stefan says, again, we're back to Rob Monster. I was reminded of his thoughts and prayers when I saw that. Oh, crikey. I'm going to get in trouble now. Stefan, I hate it when I accidentally increment a number 150,000 times calling endpoint. So I've joked about this a lot of times, but there's, weave is one of the things that comes to mind. There was another guy in Australia, must have been about a decade ago, a guy called Patrick Webster, and he found a similar idol with our colonial first state superannuation. Was it colonial? It was one of our superannuation plans. Now, superannuation is like your retirement fund here in Australia. And like he basically just logged on to his industry super fund and he saw a URL and there was a number and he's like, I wonder if, and he changed the number once and he saw someone else's data. And I think the responsible people amongst us would go, okay, righto, yeah, that done. Like, let's let them know this is not good. And then he did it like another 100,000 times just to make sure it was a mistake. And it's like, I kind of joke about it a little bit, but it's as soon as you see one other person's data, like that's the threshold, right? Because if it's one other person, okay, insufficient access controls, you can report that, and then the company has to let one other person know. But imagine you do it 100,000 times. Like, what position do you then put that organization in? Because they now have to tell 100,000 people it's going to be in the news. And because it's going to be in the news, their lawyers are going to be involved and possibly the police are going to be involved. So only plus one.
In that situation, though, should they notify everyone anyway, unless they have some really good access logs to prove that no one did that?
I think the difference there is that that's then a decision that they have to make, as opposed to saying this person did do that and then they chuck you under the bus and then do something that they might have to do other. Like, I'd rather them just do the notification thing anyway if they felt it was necessary, as opposed to like do that and throw you under the bus.
Yeah.
Ewan Taylor says, what advice do you have for students who are just studying cybersecurity at university? Scott, you might be more educated than me. Should you answer that?
I don't know. I think that's pretty. I think because I never got into cybersecurity through the academic approach, and degrees and qualifications in cybersecurity are now a thing versus when I started and they weren't a thing. So it's really hard to comment on that because, like we're now seeing in the UK, certainly anyway, when I was a consultant and a pen tester, like we saw the first generation of graduates from the first generation of cybersecurity degrees in the UK. So like the academic approach is completely unknown to me. I think it's good that we have it, but I also think, like with anything, there's not just the academic side of things, right? Like there's a lot more that I learned after my degree out in the industry and in the field that's just as important. So, stay in tune with the industry, follow the right people, read blogs, do your own research. I think that's a really cool way of gaining additional knowledge. But I never set out with the kind of focus of saying, like, I'm going to go get into cybersecurity. I kind of fell into it. So it's really, I get the question all the time, like, what books did you read or what course did you do? And I'm like, I'm really not the person for career advice, because it wasn't a focused career decision.
So I'm glad Ewan asked that, because I've just posted a link to a blog post of mine, Careers in Security, Ethical Hacking Advice on Where to Get Started, which basically says just go and watch my Pluralsight courses. But
that's convenient.
Mind you, this is now almost 5-year-old blog post. But on a slightly more serious note, I think the joy of this industry and the joy of technology in general is that it is very much a meritocracy. So if you are able to do things that impress people, opportunities do emerge. So I went to university. This is in the book, by the way. https:// book. Anyway, I went to university and then I dropped out when I think I had about 80% of the degree done. And like it kept me entertained, engaged. It allowed me to go and do a lot of windsurfing whilst I was at university, and it sort of got me going on a track. But ultimately, I think particularly in this industry, it might help you find your direction. But there are so many other ways of doing it now. That the very, very first blog post I ever wrote was about how online identities are smart career moves. This is the first thing I actually talk about in the book. This is not a book sales pitch. It just I've spent all day editing stuff, and it's on my head. But my view of it then, this was before I had any sort of presence, and this was in September 2009. I said, look, I think having an online presence is valuable. Tweets, part of it, because like me as an employer at the time, like I could go back and I could look and think, this person's been tweeting a lot about, next gen blockchain on AI, argument's sake. Like I can start to figure out this person has an interest, and they've shown interest over time. Contributions to public source code repositories. I mean, GitHub's beautiful for that, just being able to go through and say, okay, well, what are people doing? Incidentally, I learned the other day, did you know you can do a 3D print model of your GitHub contributions?
No.
No,
like the little green tile
called now.
Thing?
So I had, you remember Damien Brady?
Yeah.
So he works for GitHub now. He left Microsoft, went to GitHub. So he came down the other day. Anyway, we started drinking beer, which is where all good stories begin. And he said,
all good stories.
What is now? There is a subdomain. Someone's going to figure out what it was before I can actually answer it here. A subdomain. Oh, here we go. Skyline.github.com. So if you go to skyline.github.com, you can put in any username, and it will take the public API of contributions you've made. It'll turn it into an STL that you can then download and print. So this is going to be one of my next things to do.
This is pretty cool.
That was not the right URL.
Holy moly, that's loud.
Oh yeah, it also makes noise.
Skyline. Turned it off. Oops.
Oh, here we go. Yep, I found it now. So if you go in there, and like you can chuck in my username, or I'm just Troy Hunt, or chuck in whoever you want, your own username, would be even better. And it will go through. I'm going to mute that tab right now because I know what it's going to do. But anyway, the point is, like, going back to Ewan's question as well, like, how cool is it that you can have this online? It's not just that, it's like Stack Overflow as well. If you're involved in user groups, like, you have this ability to build up this really, really cool public profile. What was I doing for like a third of 2020? Actually, I know what I was doing. I wasn't writing code. But if you go back to, if you look at the path in the URL, my 2019, I think, was much better. I might print it.
Yeah, I'm just switching through mine now.
It's cool though, right?
Yeah, that is cool. It's like, I like the animation and everything as well. That's really sweet.
Yeah, my 2019 looks pretty good. It's like, yeah, I look like I've actually been doing work, which is great.
But it'll only show public commits as well, right? Because it's
no, but you can make not your individual commits, but your commit frequency. You can make that visible publicly, even for private repos.
Ah, I might
So
go turn that
there
on.
is a setting that can do that.
I wonder if I already have that.
So yeah, that actually looks pretty cool. So as well as drinking a bunch of beer and going wakeboarding with Damo, like we did this. This was last weekend. All right, so moving on. Stuart Beard says, completely agree with you, Scott. It also depends on university. Mine pushed towards going into research after graduation, which wasn't something I wanted to do. Fair enough. Brendan Webb says, question, how and why does Ari have the .au TLD for his website? All right, very, very good memory, first of all, Brendan. So I have arihunt.com.au, and also for my daughter, I have alhunt.com.au. Now, first of all, the reason he doesn't have arihunt.com is that someone is domain squatting on it, which I find to be all levels of shit. I've just checked it again. Not only are they domain squatting on it, but they, oh, Jesus, on GoDaddy to make it even worse. And they also don't have a cert on it, of course, so it's served insecurely. He has .com.au because I'm Australian and I can get .com.au. That's the short answer. I think I couldn't even get like Ari-Hunt or something like that. But, you know, who knows? By the time he's old enough, he's just about to turn 12. By the time he's old enough for a domain name to actually matter, maybe he won't care. It's like, look, it's not on TikTok, so who cares? But yeah, anyway, that's why. Incidentally, I just got an email from Dean Simple a couple of weeks ago as well, who I still host all my things with after all these years. And they're like, so the Australian registrars are getting really strict. You've got to have like an Australian business number, which I have several of, and you've got to associate that. And, you know, here we go. So yes, that is why I have that. Strata Strong says, imagine telling someone hundreds of years ago that someone can steal all your identity and money if they know your password. How confusing. Yeah. 100 years from now, we'll probably not be able to envisage things that will happen then now. Anyway, you get what I mean. Scott, government domains blog post.
Government domains blog post? Oh, the
you know,
yeah, the open redirect one. So, I mean, this one was pretty interesting because, first of all, like, I mean, I get about a zillion spam emails a day and they go straight to junk and spam and I never see them. But when they make it to my inbox, I usually like to check them out and see how did they get to my inbox. And, you know, if it's a phishing site, I'll report it to safe browsing to get it blocked. And that's mostly what happened in this particular story. But the reason it got through all the spam filters is there are government sites in the UK, and these attackers had obviously realized that they had open redirects on them. So, you know, like email filters are looking at the link, which is to a government website, and obviously, you know, like has good domain reputation or something. So it wasn't being filtered. And then you click on the link and hop through some redirects and like some bit.ly equivalent, and then onwards to a full-blown phishing site. And it was a perfect ripoff of our national mail carrier, Royal Mail, here in the UK. And it was like a really good, like, it was a really good phishing page. You know, here's like your tracking number and you need to pay like, you know, £3 for the delivery fee. And I was just like, wow, this is really bad. And I obviously reported it to the single government agency, that like local council, as we call them here in the UK. And then I was like, hey, I wonder if they were like, oh, it's our, you know, our web provider's fault, not ours. We don't build the website. And then I realized it was basically just a reskinned application across a whole bunch more like local council websites. So I spoke to the company in question. It's always really hard to get through to, you know, the right department when you're some like random guy on the internet calling up saying you have security issues. But when I did get through to them, they were really good. They had it patched up in no time, but I didn't want to make a big fuss of it because it's like, air quote, only an open redirect. And a lot of people don't rate those as particularly serious threats, but it was obviously being used very well in this phishing campaign to get through email filters. And, you know, they dropped the email campaign. Like I got it on a couple of my emails on like late on a Friday afternoon on a bank holiday weekend, like a public holiday weekend here in the UK. So everybody was going to be off work for 3 days as well. And there's a few different things in this that just made it like quite dangerous. So yeah, I went through like the whole responsible disclosure thing. It's still just as hard as it was like 5 years ago. I don't know if you're seeing much difference there, but it is still surprisingly difficult.
It's funny. I had someone privately, I think they privately DM'd me a public tweet about a similar thing with Qantas. And they sort of said, look, I don't actually expect you to do anything about it. And from memory, in the iOS top 10 of like 2010, open redirects were like number 10 on the list. And then eventually they just dropped it because they're like, man, everyone does it. It's not major. But to their credit, Qantas actually fixed it really, really quickly. So it's definitely still a thing, but I think it has actually improved a lot too.
It's the reputation damage that got the traction on this one as well, particularly. Like, I don't think they were, the overriding sentiment that I felt when, my interpretation is they were like, oh, this could make us look bad, so we need to fix it. And it's like, I'm just like, whatever gets this fixed, I don't care. But it was interesting to observe that it seemed to be the perceived reputation damage of having something being used in an active phishing campaign that was the motivator to fix this.
So, hey, a couple of other questions before we move on and start to wrap up. So Burton said, have you made a 3D printed brackets to fix the monitors together? So for a while there, because I got the 3 monitors here, I was thinking about like making a bracket to fix them together. Short answer is no, but the main reason is that I'm redoing this office at the moment, and I want to get the center monitor mounted on the wall. In fact, I want to get all the monitors mounted on the wall, because what I want to ultimately get rid of is, like, if I bump my desk and you watch the camera, and stuff like wobbles. So I want to get the monitors mounted on the wall, I want to get the camera mounted on the wall, and then I can like lean on the desk and everything. It's fine. But I think when I do that, there'll be much less play. The bracket that I've found for the monitor pretty much is like that thick. For folks listening to this, I am visually indicating several centimeters. If you're in another part of the world, it's like a fraction of an inch. So anyway, I'm hoping that takes a lot of play out. As Stefan's got a question here, and you can answer this first, Scott. Do I have to send you a 3D printer bill as well? No, that was the one I was thinking of. All right, I'll read this. Do I have to send you a bill for 3D printer now as well, with all the Unify Home Assistant now 3D printing stuff? I'll go broke before I know it. No, you don't have to send us a bill. Good luck.
Keep spending.
The question I was thinking of is, he says, what does a typical day look like for you, Troy Hunt and Scott Helm? Early risers, early, late to bed, regular exercise? You first.
Wow. I mean, I think the short answer is there isn't a typical day. Like I split my time between, like, a large portion goes on to report URI, doing like R&D, working with customers. I do a couple of other side gigs, some which I can't talk about publicly, that I spend a lot of consultancy time on. I run, obviously, security headers. I write my blog. In terms of like the early riser, late to bed, yes and yes. Like, I have clients in other time zones, which, like, for example, all this week I've been working with an American company training. So I've been, that's like 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. local. So I time zone shift a lot, like from one week to the next. When I'm doing APAC work, I'm up, really, really early. Exercise is my downfall. Like, I really need to, I just spend so much time sat at my desk, and exercise is like the one thing that I need to do more of.
You've got the watch. Do you record it?
Yeah. So I have, like all the basic goals in there, and I've kind of set them just so that my goals are more like to make sure I do something rather than achieve like a really high level. So my exercise my exercise goal is like 30 minutes a day, which it should be more, but that's just to make sure I do at least 30 minutes a day.
Do you like just strap it onto the dog?
Yeah, and then just kick it up the arse and make it run around the garden. But no, it's like basically, walking the dogs is pretty much how I get my exercise every day, and that's the kind of minimum commitment that I make. And I need to do a lot more than that, but it's always the time argument, right? Yeah. Like, I'm always, as an independent, you're like, well, if I can do like this extra hour now, then I don't have to do it tomorrow, and I can do a different hour.
Without trying to like deliberately sound derogatory towards English people as well, there is a very big difference between living in your environment and this environment, where here you're constantly being invited outdoors. It's like, come out, it's so nice. Go for a walk.
And it's literally like raining heavily outside right now. This is usually the case. So
somehow I knew that.
Yeah. Can you not see the sun beaming in through this window onto my face?
Nope, that's not that.
That's just my studio light. Okay, so do you want to see how miserable it looks? Let me turn off my studio lights. You ready? Boop. There you go.
Might fix your focus. We have to talk about your focus later on. Is it? Yeah.
It's just because I'm messing around with the lights. Did changing this light to static not help?
No, but I'll tell you about it afterwards.
Okay.
We'll have a chat after this and debrief. So if I took a shot at Stefan's question, so I'm definitely early, but it's kind of funny here, and I think you end up being very much a factor of your environment, where a combination of factors here. So we don't have daylight saving in this state, which is super, super weird, because if we go 30K that way, they've got daylight saving. So for half the year, when it's, let's say for argument's sake, it's 7 a.m. down there, when they might get up at 6 a.m. here. So if we get up at 6 a.m. in the morning, it's the same as the folks just over the road getting up at 7 a.m. So there's that. And then the second thing is, as Scott's seen, and Stefan, hopefully you'll come and see sometime, mate, is it's a very, very lifestyle orientated environment, and people just tend to be up and about very early. So the cafes here open at about 5:30. If you go down at 5:30 in the morning, there'll be a bunch of people down there. They've been out walking their dog or something like that, and they're having breakfast. So we start very early, but I really often end up going to bed at about 8:30 at night. 8:30, 9 o'clock, something like that. And I'm generally pretty good at getting sleep. Exercise here has been really good. Because now we have all of the data, I popped open my my phone. It says
Let's open our fitness apps.
For the last year, I have averaged 84 minutes a day of exercise, which is good. So I'm happy with that. In fact, it's dropped a little bit. For the last year is 84 minutes. For the last 3 months, for some reason, it's only 78 minutes. So we'll see what's going on there. But yeah, and then my move, what am I doing? I'm burning just over 4,000 kilojoules a day. I don't know what that is in a calorie, but anyway. So yeah, we do pretty good on that front. But again, it's like it's not just the climate that's really inviting. It's the things that we can do, because we'll go for a walk. So very often Charlotte and I go for a walk early in the morning, particularly when the kids aren't here, where we'll sort of walk down to the coffee shop, we'll grab a coffee and some breakfast, we'll walk to the beach, we'll walk home, and there's like 4 and a bit kilometers, and then you're home by 8 a.m. or something, which is good. We go for a bike ride. So yesterday, I think I mentioned we went for must have been 16, 17K for a bike ride, which is only like 45 minutes, but it's super, super easy. Or we'll go wakeboarding. We play a heap of tennis, but again, it's like an environment that just really invites you to do that. And a lot of people here are just very, very active folks. Stuart says, Troy Hunt, you should challenge Scott Helm for a week on the watch.
I just don't have like the activities that I would like to have available, right? Like it's, apart from walking and running, and I guess I could bicycle anywhere I could walk, but like there's not an activity to do. Like I'd love to have an activity rather than just going out and walking for the sake of fitness. It's I'm not a very sporty person either. Although I go out a lot on the buggy and do like off-roading and stuff like that. That's really physically demanding.
That's not sport, that's driving a car.
Yeah, but you're like hanging on for dear life whilst being bounced around inside a roll cage.
I know, but like unless you're like Lewis Hamilton kind of driving a car, this is come on.
I'm basically there. Come on, like this is almost my level of.
So we're getting very close to the hour, and we sort of keep it to about an hour. So the last thing I had here, and I just find this is just like an absolute zinger of I still do not understand how this happened. I'm dropping it into the YouTube chat window, and I'm dropping it into the back channel for Scott. But this is McDonald's Monopoly. Now, this was a couple of weeks ago, but somehow, and I will speculate in a moment about how I think this happened, but somehow they managed to send a mass mail with multiple connection strings right at the top of the mail. It's like literally data source, the entire, and in this tweet, I did obfuscate it. I do have the unobfuscated version, which someone sent me originally, but it's like the entire host name in the initial catalog, the username, the password. I left enough of the password visible to demonstrate that their dev environment has exactly the same password as their prod environment. Not a good move. All right, Scott, how does this happen?
I looked at this and I can take some guesses, but none of them are what I would ever hope would be the logical answer for how.
Occam's razor, the most likely explanation.
Which is the.
Well, I think Occam's razor is the simplest explanation, is most likely to be true.
But I mean, I can't think of a simple explanation. Like, how do you arrive in the situation where the thing building and sending the email has access to?
I reckon it's debug. I think at some point someone was like, for whatever reason, we need to know what the connection string is. We're going to debug this. And then they were like, right-click deploy.
I guess like I'm stuck in my mindset of how we do this. And I'm thinking like on Report Your Eye, because we send lots of emails, and just trying to think like, how do you ever get to the point where you're passing this information to the class that builds and sends the emails? And I can't get there in my head. It is so bizarre.
The funny, like the tweet that this image is attached to, I said, never trust a clown to secure connection strings. A lot of people like that. But then it was quite funny because, of course, it got picked up in the press, and there was just a lot of press about like clowns and security. So that's a fun day. Like no one really got hurt out of this. I think their production environment, their production DB was not publicly facing. Their staging one got shut down very quickly and didn't have anything sensitive in. So, if that's the case, then kudos to them for not backing up production into staging or dev, as it may have been.
Don't use production data in test.
So, question here from Brendan. Speaking of earthquakes, I'm not quite sure how we're on earthquakes. Anyway, did Victoria's earthquake news end up reaching the UK? So did you hear about the earthquake, Scott?
Dude, like in our country, we're running out of petrol. We're running out of natural gas to heat our homes. The supermarket shelves are empty.
No, there's no sunlight.
Prime Minister is the biggest idiot in the world. So no, we didn't hear about an earthquake in Australia. Hey, Trump isn't the ruler of America anymore. We now win. We gotta
go.
It's so yeah, no, like have you seen the news from the UK at the minute? We're literally in some kind of like crisis situation. The news is just riddled with stories of like, search the UK news, like petrol stations closing because they've run out of petrol. People like, we've lost like 6 gas companies, 6 utility companies because they've all gone
getting rid of
bust.
the cookie warnings, right? So that's
yes. Now talking about important things. It's it's just like, it's really bizarre over here at the minute. We're not getting much international news because everything in our country is falling to bits.
So the earth, the first thing I knew about the earthquake was I saw Lars tweet something. He's like, earthquake, I will rebuild. And a horseshoe had fallen off his wall onto the floor.
I saw that actually, yeah.
But the thing I was looking at is like, why do you have a horseshoe on your wall? Like,
it's a big, heavy, hard thing to fall and hit you. Seems like a risk.
I could speculate, but I won't. So some stuff fell over, apparently. Unfortunately, none of the COVID protesters got sucked into a big crevice in the earth. I don't know if you've seen this thing. I keep having people tweet this to me, and they're like, why are you all so mean down there? Where it's like, there's this really, really small percentage of protesters who are claiming to be from the CFMEU, which is like the construction workers, what's the word I'm looking for? What do the company have? What did Amazon keep trying to bust? Union. We got there. So from the construction workers union, where there's just all these protests against things like mandatory vaccination. And it turns out a bunch of them aren't from the construction workers union. Anyway, there's just like, there's all these photos. It's like, why do you think these construction workers' high-vis vests are so clean? It's like, oh.
They always get a fresh one out of the packet and a clean hard hat.
I know. Funny you should ask. And why are their hands so soft? Anyway, so there's been obviously just anti-vaxxers protesting. And then, of course, right police doing what right police do. And then some of them have rubber bullets and stuff like this. And then that's on the press. And honestly, like the general sentiment here is no one is very, very sympathetic to that sort of behavior, particularly when the other day they're like protesting on top of a war memorial. And Australia, I'm sure it's very similar in the UK, but it's like defacing war memorials is like just all of the sympathy disappears really, really, really quickly.
Yeah, it's just a scummy move, isn't it?
Anyway, on that light note, well, it got better. We got off weave. So
I just sent those links in the chat for like our 3 recent headlines about running out of everything.
That was a positive thing. So look, we have just passed that hour, so I think we're going to try and wrap it up here. But thanks for folks for joining. Same time, same place, 5 years from now.
Yeah, man. Hopefully we'll still be here.
Hopefully. All right, folks. Well, thanks for watching. We're going to end it there, and we'll see you next time. And Scott, I'm going to